Hey friends, it's TJ. So today I am having a cup of matcha. It's the perfect fall tea. It's giving me all the fall vibes today. It's very warm and cozy. But I wanted to talk to you today about what I think is truly one of the toughest things that our generation faces, and that's finding balance. So let's take a deeper dive. Finding balance, I think, can be difficult. Balancing work, relationships, self care, even personal growth. But I do believe there's a way to manage it, even when it's overwhelming. It just takes a few small steps to find that balance in your life. I used to be one of those people that felt like I had to be everything to everyone at all times. But I've realized over the past few years that to truly be your most authentic self, you have to learn how to trim the excess, right? And figure out the things that no longer serve you, or that's hindering your growth. And I realized that I needed to regain that balance in my life, and that it was not going to be easy as much as I wanted it to. Uh, but in some cases, that meant limiting certain interactions or experiences that I felt like jeopardized any sense of balance that I was after. And I was pursuing this balance in my life. And it really kind of just taught me to savor the moments in life because I feel like we don't always acknowledge those things. And so, how does one balance it all, right? Work, relationships, self care, personal growth. I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on a framework that has proven to be effective for me in achieving that balance that I craved. The first thing I would say would be to start identifying your priorities, like what truly matters to you. It could be family, career, health, or personal passions. I know one of the things that I tried desperately to prioritize when I came to this realization of trying to create balance in my life was something as simple as just being more interactive with my family. Because I have, you know, traveled a lot for work and I've lived away from home for 10 plus years at this point. And so one of my goals was to prioritizing, even if I couldn't spend physical time with them, um, calling and checking on people and talking to my mom and talking to my dad and my grandma. And I remember going through that journey and trying to figure out, okay, how can I find this sense of balance with maintaining communication and connection with my family, having grown up with a very large family and seeing them every week, and every Sunday was Sunday dinner after church, and so I started small, with just a phone call, every day, to talk to my mom, to just check in to see how she was doing, what was going on, what was happening back home. And I started to realize if I could implement that in other aspects of my life, I could finally create some sort of balance, or the balance that I had been craving at the time. I made that promise to myself to call her every day. And I was just going to start there. I was going to call my mom every day, even if I was busy, and just to check in, to just see what was up. And it proved to be instrumental in creating that balance for my life, because I feel like no one gives you the rule book on life, like when you grow up, right? Like no one um, truly helps you understand how complex life can be, when you're growing up with your family, or when you're a child, going into high school or going into college. We kind of have this false sense of what reality is supposed to be like. Like um, it's not truly what we are prepared for. And so, coming out of college, moving to New York City, I I realized, there were so many aspects of my life that I needed to get a handle on, or just to create that balance. That I could not put all of my time and energy into one thing over the other, but that I had to create a spectrum of priorities in my life, right? And give them all fair attention in order for me to achieve the goals that I was after. And the second thing I will say that I think is helpful in creating that balance in your life is setting boundaries. Learn to say no to things that don't serve you or align with your priorities in life. It can be very liberating, believe me, especially if you're one of those people that feels like you're always giving away your time, and at the end of the day, you feel like you have nothing left for yourself. I was definitely like that. I used to be in a place where I felt like I was always available to everyone except for myself. And when it came down to trying to do things for myself or trying to accomplish things, I would put them on the back burner, or I wouldn't give them as much time and energy as I would other people and other experiences, right? I would prioritize those things over myself. And what I learned from setting boundaries is that at the end of the day, right, you have to replenish for yourself, and you have to pour back into yourself, because then if you don't, you have no room for anyone else, right? You have no space, you have no energy to go out into the world and continue to do these things and pursue these things that you're after, right? And I don't mean that you have to be introverted by any means, right? I consider myself an extrovert. I love being around people. I love experiences. I love learning new things. But I think it's worth acknowledging with yourself in those moments where you need to prioritize what your body and mind needs in that moment. Like, so many times I have been on tour, or been traveling or whatever, and instead of listening to my body, I've pushed through and tried to accommodate those around me, instead of saying, no, I need a break. I need a minute to just collect myself and to just be with myself, because that's what my body needs in the moment. And I think that leads me into this idea of self-care. And I know, generally speaking, we've collectively gotten better with committing to ourselves when it comes to self-care. But I challenge you to go a little further, to commit to self-care, and make it a necessity and not a luxury, because I do believe that with the culture we have today, especially over the past few years, that mindset has shifted from this idea of self-care being something that's considered a luxury that you do, when you've done something good, right? It's a treat, it's a reward. Whereas my belief is that self-care should be a part of your everyday life. You should be able to have experiences in your life, and still have room for self-care when you need to chill or relax or have some downtime for yourself, to just be with yourself, and to get to know yourself better. The path that I took to really understanding self-care for myself is that I dedicated time to activities that rejuvenated me in those moments, right? If I was feeling very tired, I would sleep. Like, that's a form of self-care. Or when I felt depleted, when I just felt not physically tired, but just the need to relax and rest, and take a break. And it could be as simple as carving out time for a walk every day, right? It doesn't have to be this giant or momentous gesture for yourself. Start small, right? I think oftentimes we get hung up on these ideas of, oh, I have to make these grand, momentous gestures in order for something to be effective. And I don't think that's true. I think what is true is if you allow the time and space for yourself, you can achieve those many self-care sessions for yourself, and without having to break the bank or, take a week off or whatever it is. If you need to take a week off, please do that, right? Sometimes that's what we need. But what I'm saying is that sometimes an act of self-care can be a very small gesture that will lead to rejuvenation for your body, right? One of my favorite things is to go on a walk. When I'm feeling stuck, when I'm feeling mentally exhausted, when I feel like I need to crank out an idea, I go for a walk. And I think it is worth saying that sometimes you might have to schedule it, right? In order to achieve these moments of self-care. I know our schedules are all busy, right? We're working and doing all of the things. But if you add that to your calendar or your to-do list or whatever it is, that helps you be accountable for yourself. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I learned when it came to self-care. One of the structured self-care routines that I have for myself is that I commit to a massage a month. No matter what is going on, I budget it accordingly so that I always have the funds for it. But that is my time, right? That's my me time. That is my time to decompress. That is my time to allow my body to rejuvenate and rest and to turn my mind off for a little bit, right? Because during that hour, nothing else matters. That time is carved out once a month just so that I can feel better emotionally, mentally, physically. And I challenge you to carve that time out for yourself. Relationships are another crucial part in creating balance that I feel like gets overlooked often. And our relationships can really provide us with a deeper understanding of how to connect with people, whether it's friendships, romantic relationships, partnerships, work relationships. And I feel like we usually fall into those moments when we are lacking social interaction, where we feel like, our relationships are falling apart, or where we feel like we're working nonstop and we don't have time for friends. And I have a friend that that holds me accountable because I'm usually, in a million different places all at once. But I have a friend who lives here in New York that holds me accountable to where if we have not seen each other in a month, he will pick up the phone and call and say, let's go to dinner. Let's figure it out. Let's see each other. Let's just make time for each other. And I'm so appreciative of that because, with relationships, that is an aspect of life that we all crave, right? We all crave human connection. We all want to be seen and heard and loved and cared for. And relationships are often overlooked because they have less to do with self and they have more to do with the other person. I want you to remember something. Personal growth is a journey, not a destination. And the small steps will lead to big changes. It'll take time, and that's totally okay. And with that, keep learning, keep evolving, and don't be too hard on yourself. I'll see you next week.